It will work. Charles, I need to show you how to transmit on YouTube live when we do on the Zoom. Up. So it seems we have nice kids today.
Morning, Claire. Cleo. Cleo or Claire?
I used to call her both.
Oh, good idea.
So
Let's
then
watch
I'm
the
never
thing.
wrong. Yeah.
Good morning. Cleo is fine. Thank
Cleo.
you. Yes.
Good morning. So, good morning, everyone. It's 10:30 UK time. So today we are on 25th of February, 2023, and let's have another marvelous Saturday. Let's start with a quick prayer. Master Jesus, here we are together again, and our objective remains the same: learn the mechanism of mediumship to help ourselves and to help others. Give us the right intuition to ask the right questions, to see things that we haven't saw before, and to share with our friends the little we know. Be with us today and always. So let me share with you guys my book, because that will be easier to you to follow. By the way, I always like to remember that this is not a lecture, this is a study. So everyone is more than welcome to make questions, to share your comments, experiences, not agree in what we are saying, so we open a conversation. So if we do stay quiet, yeah, it's positive, but we may be missing an opportunity to maybe solve our doubts and perhaps even help someone that's here, all right, with us. So let me just, there's always playing with me today, but let's see. All right, so we're good to go. So we have stopped in the item we have here. Obviously, we must understand the world appearance to means aspect, imitation. The spirit was not carrying a real snuff box, it was only a representation of it. Hence, it was an appearance when compared with the original, although composed of material substance. We stopped here last week. If you have any question regarding what we saw last week, don't hesitate. Open your mic and let's try to work on it. And that's very good because Charles already have one.
Yes, he is in the previous answer. Saint Louis is talking about material principle, and here is again repeating a material substance. I think we have to understand here that this material substance is to be understood as a semi-material substance. Because if it would be material, it would be a materialization or an apparition or whatsoever. So, but it was not. It was only, how to say, the same substance as a perisprit itself, which has been used to form these objects. And the second remark I do here is the first time I read No Solar, my first reaction was, this is fiction, this is wishful thinking, whatsoever. And in reality, it is in this section of Kardec that we are currently studying that we understand how this small object can be a principle, forming principle can be extended to forming houses, buildings, whole astral city.
Charles, I like that subject very, very much. And when I try to understand how that can make some sense, first thing that comes to my mind is the quantum physics. Because we have hard time to argue about science because we believe the scientists, they have a different degree of understanding, or they have a different permission to come up with something, and we are keen to accept. No one can see quantum physics. It's impossible, right? But the quantum physics, they say that everything depends from the observer, from the point, the subject being observed, and also the understanding of the observer. When we are incarnated on Earth, like we all are, matter for us is what we can touch. And we consider anything else as no material. Kardec brought to us the semi-material concept. I bet during his time was very, very difficult to explain that, because it is hard to explain today. So 200 years ago was not easier, right? So incarnated, we'll see only the matter that we can touch. Anything else, don't exist, basically, because we don't see, we cannot touch, so don't exist. But if we are discarnated spirits, whatever I have in my level of vibration, in my dimension, if you like, is material to me, because I can touch, I can lift, I can feel the weight. So it is depending where you are. So then, if we don't consider those differences, it becomes very difficult to understand a book like No Solar, because it's like a fairy tale. I totally agree. And even Chico Xavier, that as far as I know is by far the medium that brought more books about spiritism to us than anyone else. I don't know any other medium that had more than 425 books. He suffered a lot, because a lot of charitable spiritists at the time, they gave him a very hard time, because they could not see nor understand what he was bringing to us. Decades after, with the continuity of books from Emmanuel, from other spirits, and also starting to get knowledge about the same type of information in different countries, people start to be more flexible. And today, with the science getting closer to an outburst of knowledge, I would say, perhaps things will be even easier to understand. Hi, Munir.
No, hi, Guilherme. Good morning, everyone. I just want to add an example of perception of what is solid, what is material. When at the time I was a kid, it's impenetrable, the properties of matter. And nowadays, they are seen in a different way, that matter is more a condensation of energy than anything else. But if we take two bar magnets and put the same pole, facing each other and try to bring them together, we experience something that seems material. You swear there is something there, in between, but there's nothing but magnetic field. So our perception, that there are forces there. They give us the impression that there is something solid, something material, whereas In this case of the magnet bar, there's nothing material in terms of being a solid or palpable or whatever. You just have fields.
In this particular case, you can feel it, isn't it, Munir?
You did, yeah, it is. It is. If they are strong, you push hard and you don't put them together, North with north or south with south, you don't put them together.
Charles? Your mic is closed.
Sorry, magnetic fields or electromagnetic fields or light or whatever is all material, okay? Because we can measure it, we can detect it, we can feel it. But this, how to say, box that the spirit had, we cannot detect, we cannot weight, we cannot. So it's not material. It is something which is out of our the scope of investigation of science.
I would say it is out of our current periodic table.
Exactly, yes.
But things will change in one day.
Not only periodic table, also the table of particles and whatever we can imagine. No?
Mm-hmm.
Now, another small remark. You see, the next paragraph is in big letters, and it should be in small letters because it's a continuation of the remark of Kardec.
Oh, right. Okay.
So it's a small problem in the presentation of the translation.
Okay, cool. Nice to know. So, Daniel, I saw you trying to ask, and you thought, no, I'm not going to ask, but you will. Come on. What was the question?
No, it's actually observation. The measurement tools evolved with time. So you cannot see quantum physics, but you can elaborate techniques to observe it. So it's not because we cannot measure that is not there, and that have been happened for a while with evolution of everything that we do in science as human beings. Just agreeing with the perspective is it's not because we cannot measure exactly that is not there.
Very, very, very nice, Daniel. Very nice. And you mentioned something that from time to time I like to talk is observation. We were having meetings with people that are way smarter than I am. And some of them work with science. And I said something at the time that science is observation. He jumped straight away. No, this is not science. Let's go back 1,000 years ago, 500 years ago. How we were able to do science? Observing the nature, observing any phenomena around us. So science was a product of observation, right? So as a product of observation, we may decide to use what we see in different shapes and forms, but everything started from the observation. You cannot do any science if you do not stop to observe. You have to observe. And he said, no, it's not like that. So, okay, now why not? Because today we have a lot of instruments, we have a lot of techniques. And I made a question. Does a microscope give you the result of what is over there? Or you still need to put your eye on it to observe what is happening through the microscope? And then was a little bit of silence. Because even today, even if you apply AI, after the results that are coming to you, you have to evaluate and observe. So science is observation. So I cannot see the magnetic field, we can measure, but I can feel it. So there's something there. That's easy. I can weight the air. I cannot see, but I can feel the air, right? And I can weight it as well. That's easy. When we cannot make any measurement, then what is left we can consider as science? The observation, the repeatability, how that happened, how it is triggered, how it's happened not only with me, but with my neighbors, with people in other countries, in other continents. So this is the science of observation. So experience has taught us that we must not always take the expression used by the spirits as being literal. This is something that we human beings, we have a hard time. Why we have a hard time? Because I don't know how many people are here together today. I cannot see now. 17 people here. If we read the same page of the same book, we'll have 17 different interpretations. None of them will be 100% the same. We'll have some nuances that will be different at least. And some people will see something entirely different than the other person can see. And then from that point in time, we start to create truth, my truth. My truth is the right one. So what Munir understands of this page is not right because my version is the right one. And then when we two start to argue, there's a third person that will come with a different perspective, a different pair of eyes that shouts, no, mine is the right one. That's very human. But the best thing to do is leave our humanity aside and try to understand what Munir is saying, what I'm saying, what Charlie is saying. And perhaps the outcome will be a more complete understanding of the same fact, of the same phenomena, of the same page of the book. But that's not always the case. We can face people in different situations and they really believe what they know is the truth. And the problem is that truth can be expanded, I will pass my truth to all of you here, and then yourselves from 17 multiply that by 2, by 3, by 4, and that's a process that has to stop. That's why I always encourage everyone to study. Because if I'm saying something that's not right, you will have a better chance to say, or at least to see that I'm not right. So it's very nice to participate in a study, but if you don't study yourself, you'll be taking on board things that perhaps are not 100%, right? If we interpret them according to your own ideas, to our own ideas, we expose ourselves to big mistakes. That is why we must get to the bottom of the meaning of the words whenever they present the least ambiguity. That's another very important topic. Every time we read the same book or we read the same text about something, we start to understand a little bit more. We see things we could not see before. And it's happening through our study here. And I said to you all already a few times, I said, oops, I never saw that. And I can guarantee that I read this book many times. But I was not prepared to take that on board, or I was too lazy to read word by word, or I was not capable of understanding at the time. And as the time goes by, with all the information, with all the people helping us to have a different interpretation, perhaps it became clearer the next time I was reading. The spirits themselves constantly make this very recommendation. Is not because we are having an information from one spirit that this information is right. We have to have a concordance between several spirits, different places, different time and age. And one thing I will tell you, no enlightened spirit will complain about you making questions. course, if you're doing some, if you're trying to clear some curiosity, if you're trying to ask some really stupid thing, is a different thing, right? I'm talking about questions that the result will help someone, questions that the result will teach a group about a subject. Even if you don't understand what is written here in this book, you can ask the spirits, and they will try to answer, right? There's no wrongdoing if you have the possibility to do that. Without the above explanation, the word appearance, which is always used in similar cases, could be wrongly interpreted. Could inert matter be reproduced? Could the invisible world contains an essential matter that assumes the form of the objects we see in this world? In other words, could the object in this world have the etheric double in the invisible world in the same way that humans are represented there by spirits? Before we go to the answer, when I start to read this item number 4, when said about invisible world containing an essential matter, something came to my mind. The dark matter. Before we thought there was a void. After we thought was something else. Today we are finding things that could be unbelievable 10 years ago because of James Webb. We are finding things that could be really perhaps one of the ways to understand better the spiritual world. Because what was nothing, today we know already is not nothing, it's something. We don't know what it is, but it's something, right? So such is not the case. A spirit exerts a power over the material elements scattered through the space of your atmosphere, a power that you are far from having any inkling about. A spirit can concentrate these elements by using its will and give them the appearance that matches its intention. And then someone will read that sentence and believe that any spirit can do anything. If that would be true, we would be living a mess. We would be living in a mess, because any spirit could, even thinking about a weapon. I want to hurt a person. I will do a weapon here right now, and I'll try to use it, and a few other things. So we need to understand that, yes, that is a possibility, not by all spirits, not in all situations, not every spirit on every degree. As this study here said a little bit earlier, we should try to see beyond the words when they are coming to us. Because if I take that here on board, I will believe the spirits can do everything by thought. And practice shows us that's not the case. One may notice that this question was the translation of our thought involving the idea that we had already formed concerning the nature of spirit-produced objects. If the answer had been a reflection of our own thought, as some have suggested, we would have received the confirmation of our theory instead of a contrary one. Yeah, it's fine. I would once more categorically state the question in order to avoid any misunderstanding. Are the clothes worn by the spirit something real? It seems to me that the preceding answers has resolved the question. Don't you already understand that the perispirit is something real? What do you guys think? What do you think, Munir? And Charles afterwards.
Yes, as it says here, the answer that has been given before applies to, the perispirit, and that the perispirit is something real. Because the doubt that I have, that perhaps, many people have, is something is real, but, something may not be exactly what we expect. In the case of the snuff box, when it says it's a representation of the snuff box, it's not a hallucination and illusion. It is something, but it's not the snuff box we consider, as such. What came into my mind was the Universal Studio in the United States, where they make all these movies, and you go there, everything seems real, but it's not the real thing. A house that you see there is not a house. It's just a scenario or something, but it's made out of something. It's real, but it's not the real thing. I try to make a distinction. It's not the house itself, but it is a representation made out of something. And what I understand from the answers given here is that, yes, they are something, but they are not exactly that something you expect it to be, but a representation of that something made out of something else that is real.
And you, Charles, what do you think?
Yes, again, here, this is a confirmation that the word material or material in your atmosphere, in the space or whatever, is to be understood as semi-matter, not matter, in the sense of, I call it Einsteinian matter, the matter which is submitted to some physical constants and limits, which is speed of light, which is gravity constant, which is, and so on. And this dark matter or dark energy are things that the scientists introduced in order to keep the current equation working for representing what is observed. But they call it dark matter or dark energy, but it's far still from being a demonstration that this semi-material thing is existing. And here is also saying that Kardec was thinking, okay, if I take this, for instance, this has also, like we have a perispirit, this object has also a kind of a fluidic reality around it. And Saint Louis is clearly saying, no, that's not the case. It is the spirit who, in the material world, is idealizing through his thought this object and manages to do it from the fluids of semi-material fluids which are present in the spiritual world, which is around all us. Mm-hmm. But one thing, I mean, is sure, and we know it since the beginning, is this semi-matter has an influence on the matter itself, at least in all the living phenomena. This is the case. If I'm talking now to you, it's because my spirit is acting the perispirit, which is in turn acting through my brain or whatever. What is necessary is that I can speak to you or raise my hand, for instance. So this is a permanent demonstration we have in front of our eyes in all what is living, that this semi-matter has an influence on the Einsteinian matter. Mm-hmm. Okay, but for the objects, it's not like this. They are not living, so they don't have this, how to say, model in the spiritual world as the living things have.
That question is very interesting because he's asking a very clear question about the clothing. And the answer, depending on who is reading, the person will say that the clothing is part of the perispirit. And then the problem starts. You see, it seems that the preceding answer has resolved the question, period. Don't you already understand that perispirit is something real? Yes, the perispirit is something real. It's about the semi-matter, right? But he's not referring to the clothing as being part of the perispirit. But a lot of people will say, no, the perispirit is your perispirit that you think and you change your clothes, you think you change the color, you think you change everything. It's not what he's saying here. But I saw over the years many people advocating that. And I do not, by the way. Your explanation indicates that spirits submit ethereal matter to the transformation they desire. Thus, for example, in the case of the snuff box, the spirit did not find it already made, but itself produced when it needed by an act of its will, and then made it in the same way. In the same procedure. Is this the same procedure for all the other objects, such as clothing, jewelry, etc.? And the answer, but that is obvious, right? But human beings, they like to see what they like to see. And quite often when we ask a question, we want to have that particular answer. So what a human being will do, I will stick to just the question number 5, and the answer of the question number 5, and my understanding that the perispirit, the clothing is an extension of the perispirit. I will not even bother to go a little bit further, try to understand, because the answer on the question number 5 is the one that I was trying to hear. Let me just steer a little bit more that part. Can any of you do anything by your thought? Everything you do today is starting with what?
A thought.
And then you go to the next step. You get the matter you need to give your thought the shape and form. For example, if I'm preparing the food for my kids in the kitchen, I thought about prepare a particular meal to my son. And then I will get milk, flour, whatever, I'll prepare it. So is that not the case on the spirit world? This is not a subject for here. I will leave you guys to study Nosso Lar, Astral City, and the books beyond that, and yourselves make your own conclusions.
Gil, it's Christine.
Oh, Christine, how are you doing?
Yeah, pretty good. And hello, everybody. Just thinking about what we've studied so far, and we've talked about how the spirits, they have thought, and therefore the thought things are. So it's been a while since I've seen Nosso Lar, and I am going to watch it again. But it seems to me that if in the spirit world, it just is. Does that make sense? I mean, we have to go to more, we have to exert more energy.
What I would say, Christine, the movie is very nice. I like very much. And by the way, the second one is about to be released. But the movie does not bring to us the details we need to understand and to appreciate the movie. All right? We have to read the book. No rush, slowly, and then that will change even your perception about the movie, right? But even in the movie, you see people going to the work, you see people treating another, you see people eating, you see. So is that all an illusion? Is this all a result of a thinking? I'll leave that for you, and then you make
Another dimension.
in another dimension. is another
Yeah.
matter. Another matter is matter for that dimension. And that's why we need the perispirit. Otherwise, we would not need the perispirit, because there is a difference between the spirit and the perispirit. You need the perispirit to interact in the matter of the spiritual world. Only your spirit will not interact with the matter of the spiritual world. So the information we have is there. But when we start to dissecate like that, many people are not prepared to take that on board. Right? The spirit does not interact with the matter. The perispirit interacts with the matter. So there are everything around. There is everything around, right? And that thing that we think we do, perhaps in a very elevated dimension, but closer to where we are, that's not the way I see. Did I make things more complicated, Christine?
No,
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, I look where you've highlighted, but that is obvious from the spirit's answer. It sounds to me like they're getting quite frustrated because they're being asked questions different ways and they've answered them. And every so often it's, but I've answered that question and something else. And there is, but that is obvious. So sometimes the answers are very short because we'll go back and look at what we've said before.
Everyone have a different work in life. We are, as incarnated, we have the duty, is our work to make questions. If they like or not is a different thing, but we should make questions, right? And in a way, he's also having a confirmation that, yeah, I told you about that, you know, the information is there. So it's positive anyway. So let me The snuff box was made so visible to the lady that it produced the illusion of a real object. Could the spirit have also made it tangible to her? It could have. So now we are kind of in transit between an apparition, a vision, and a materialization. If so, could she have held it, believing it to be a real snuff box? Yes. If she had opened it, would she have found the snuff? If she had inhaled some, might she have made her sneeze? Yes. So, what do you guys think about it? Because until that point, everything was unreal, if you like. Everything was an image, a picture. But now it's no longer a picture. How is that possible? Hi, Charles.
Yes, the answers are quite short here. He answers it could have, but he doesn't say how. Okay, and my understanding is in order to get this idealized semi-material object turned into something tangible, there is a need of something else, which is ectoplasm. And a physical effect medium or a medium able to release ectoplasm. So the answer does not tell it, but this is my understanding. And the same for the two other questions.
But then I have a question for you, Charles. yes, we now have a medium of physical effect donating ectoplasm to materialize the snoof box. Very good. But then when we go to the question 9, the person inhaled the product inside the sniff box. So what was inside the sniff box could not be ectoplasm, because ectoplasm, after the period of materialization, returns to its origin.
Yes,
So,
but all these, how to say, for the 3 questions, is temporary only. As long as there is ectoplasm and as long as there is a semi-material image created by the thought of the spirit. As soon as either the ectoplasm disappears or the thought of the spirit disappears, the object is disappearing as well. The ectoplasm returns to the medium and that's it.
so that's what you're saying, is that me, as I incarnated, I could get the ectoplasm inside from elsewhere, inside my physical body. Is that correct?
If you snuff something, yes, it is entering through the breathing way, but as soon as it disappears from there as well.
Do you know why I'm asking that? I'm thinking about Frutuoso. Some of the surgeries that he explained as swapping some of the matter, the physical parts of the body, by a prosthesis. We still don't have all the answers, isn't it?
Yes, because that is then probably different. They are taking some tissues, either from the body or from somewhere else, that they are transforming in for doing the prosthesis that they are willing. So in this case, the prosthesis stays, but the tissues where they took it from is not there anymore. They just moved something material.
Yeah, I think that is so beautiful, because it opens like 10 questions. Every time we touch something like that, you have so many things to ask, so many things to elaborate a theory. Hi, Munir.
Hi, Guilherme. Just want to call the attention. They are simple answers. Yes, yes, but number 8 gives us an idea that the object is subject to gravity, which is physical force, and 9 is chemical properties, because if you would have made the person sneeze, then because the chemical reaction in the nose of the person is the same as the real, so it goes away from just an appearance. It becomes something with the very same properties of the real object as such. And it intrigues me a lot, because one thing is to see an object that looks like the example I gave in Universal Studio, but then it has all the other physical and chemical properties as well.
Munir, I was able to witness some phenomena a few times in our mediumship meetings and our treatment sessions, where from nowhere, a strong smell of flower. And there was not for one person to feel that smell. Everyone in the room, a strong smell of flower, like a strong smell of alcohol, ether. How is that possible? Well, yeah, only one person is smelling. Yeah, that person is a bit from cuckoo land. Like, yeah, don't give the credit. But having like 20 people in the room, and one start to look at each other, where it's coming from,
Yeah.
I mean, the materialization is real. William Crookes could feel the hurt and breathing and whatever, as if it would be a real human body. But the question is, it was temporary only. It was not permanent.
Yeah.
And when we come back to the apportation section that we have read a couple of weeks ago, the spirits they answered that the high evolved spirits, they can synthesize something material, but not any spirit can do that. Okay, so this is maybe an additional resource that can be used in therapeutic applications like Dr. Fructuoso or whoever.
Mhm.
Because there, I think the quantity of energy involved is much, much bigger
Yeah.
than just hiding an object or how to say, giving shape to some ectoplasm which is released or whatever. This is involving probably much lower energy. And proof of it is when this phenomenon happened, it has been reported some sensation of like a cold stream or whatever, some temperature changes in some experiences. But again, it was not it's relatively low energy. If it would be energy like the one derived, as Fructuoso is saying in his conferences, derived from the Einstein law, E is equal m to c at square, that you could freeze or burn into the room very quickly because it's huge amount of energy. So it's obviously not that which is happening. It's much lower energy which is involved.
Or is energy in a different dimension that we do not know.
Yes, yes. This when I talk energy, I talk only about material energy,
Zero energy.
not semi-material energy.
There's so much
Gil,
things.
sorry, Gil, it's Christine.
Question.
I've had an experience where I was at a friend's place and both my mother and her mother, who had passed, used the same perfume. And I was walking through her lounge room and I got to a point that where her mother's and my friend's mother's picture was. And I had the strong smell of the mother's perfume, which was also my mother's perfume. But I was just mesmerized by the fact that I couldn't see anything, but I could certainly smell this perfume. I certainly wasn't wearing it, and my friend wasn't wearing it. It hadn't been, there was no spray in the house, but it was just this overwhelming sense of someone's there because you can smell them. That's who they used to be.
Mhm.
That was part of their, if I use the word cloak, their clothing,
Mhm.
their cloak.
I think it's a way to say, I'm here, Christine. You're not alone, there is more than what you see. But as always, we always have the duty to eliminate any other possibility, right? And I gave the example here that I was in a meeting, leadership meeting, and then my speaker started to talk. I said, what's going on here? Yeah, there was the Bluetooth that connects automatically. I didn't order anything. So yeah, we need to eliminate every other possibility before we can. I'm not saying that to you, Christine, I'm saying to everyone, right? So when we are facing any phenomena, we need to be thorough and eliminate any other possibility other than spirits. If after this exercise we cannot eliminate the spirits, so perhaps our spirits. Hi, Liz.
Hello, everyone. Yes, when my son died, I went to my mother's house, and when she opened the door, there was this profuse smell of roses, and we couldn't, we all smelled it at the same time. But what I did automatically, so that it wasn't, a figment of our imagination, even though it was so overpowering, is I went from the front door out to the back door into the garden, and the smell followed me. So that showed the spirit was following me, and it wasn't imagination. But it was beautiful because it was just the big hug that we needed at the time to know, we weren't alone.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
They always find a way to tell us something.
Yeah.
I'm here, you know, and we can be together again, or that perhaps the moment that that phenomena comes to us is something that we need to give us a little bit of certitude that things are beyond the grave, if you like, you know, things do not stop in the grave.
Life goes on.
Yep. Talking about life goes on, we still have 10 minutes, well, 10 minutes, so I will continue as well. The modification of the properties of matter. Then, a spirit doesn't merely form an object, but can endow it with its own particular properties, if he wants to. It was due to that principle that I responded the affirmative to the previous questions. You will receive proof of the powerful actions that a spirit exerts over matter, and which you are far from imagining, as I have already stated. An observation: not all spirits can do it, but it's possible. Let us suppose that a spirit wanted to make a noxious substance, which a person then swallowed. Would her or she be poisoned? A spirit could do that, but wouldn't cause it, but wouldn't, because it would not be allowed to. This could be a concern to many people now, isn't it? Well, the spirits can manipulate poison, the spirits can... Everything happens in our organization. Everything has a kind of surveillance. And the proof of it is that we are here. I'm pretty sure we have enemies, we have people that don't like us very much, if not from this life, from the previous life. And they would be very happy to give us trouble. If it wasn't a kind of protection preventing that to happen, we wouldn't be here, right? Or we would be in a hospital suffering the consequences of it. So, yeah, Munir.
Again, just to call the attention that every now and then they say that permission is required. So we see two things. First is who is giving this permission? And the other thing is that, you know, there is an order in everything. Things don't happen just by chance or because I will, you know, I want or whoever wants to do it that way. Things, they happen according to certain laws and regulations that we are submitted to.
That's very true. That's very true. The next question is very interesting too. Could a spirit produce a wholesome substance that could cure an illness? And has such a thing ever happened? Yes, many times. I would like to bring your attention to the phenomena. I am a discarnated spirit. I have the degree that allows me to manipulate such a knowledge, such a energy, such products. And then I will choose to prepare a substance, as they say here, to help someone to heal. But in nature, energy is energy. Magnetism is magnetism. Knowledge is knowledge. The difference is how I am planning to use my knowledge, how I am planning to manipulate the magnetism that I know how to manipulate, and so on. When we send a good thought to someone, I'm sending good energy, good vibrations. But we all here from time to time, we also send bad thoughts to someone, bad energy. Who in this room can raise your hand and say, I never had a bad thought about someone? We cannot. We cannot, because it's our degree of evolution. That's very natural. So the same principle could be applied to help and to create harm. And sometimes people misled by different opinions or different knowledge, if you like, then they can even create harm to a certain degree, because everything has a permission. And if something is happening, it's because meant to happen. And when it comes to the point that becomes too much, the spirits also intervene, like, that's it. That's the point. Then it's our faith in God, our faith in Jesus, our understanding that the best protection I can have is to change myself, to create a shield, if you like. Hi, Charles.
Yes, so this is another example linked to this is about to be allowed or not that something happens or not. I think it can be understood as when you are moving ectoplasm or something like this, it's of course by the will of the spirit who does it, but probably he must also get some help, even if he's not aware of it, by good spirits so that the phenomenon can happen. So he does not master everything from the beginning to the end. So if these good spirits are not here or are not willing to collaborate in his intentions, it simply doesn't work, and they say, right, there is no permission of God. So it's a way to understand. But I have also another point. There is a colleague in the French activities we have in French language. We have some people from Africa, from Congo. And one of them, his father, was quite well. And he went to visit a friend or a brother which was ill. And after this visit, the friend which was ill got better, and the father of this colleague was severely ill and ended up dying the next day. So this colleague from Africa is convinced that there was some black magic done in order for this to happen, that the illness of one is transferred to the other, up to the point that he died. So it was a little bit complicated for me to answer him that, okay, black magic is existing, of course, but it cannot go beyond what is permitted by God. So I gave somehow the same answer as here. So what's your opinion about this?
First, we need to understand that magnetism is magnetism, is a force of nature, can be used to harm other people. Like we harm people when they send bad thoughts, right? If I am going to visit someone, will I get that disease to me and die? I believe there are forces that could push in that direction. But I believe in a higher force. I believe in the protections we all have. I believe that perhaps someone may try. Perhaps I will suffer for a while. But if I have to die, if that's part of my learning curve, maybe. But if it was not part of my learning curve, I don't think it will happen. Not like that. Not like that. But there's a lot of forces that people prefer not to even talk about it. because they don't understand and they have fear.
Exactly. So fully agree with you. But in those countries, they really fear a lot this type of thing. No?
Mhm. Mhm. And in those situations, what is black magic? What is black magic? Black magic is the use of the fluids and the magnetism that are there in nature with will. What is will? Everybody talk about free will. Our free will is limited. And people is not very keen to hear that either. But our free will is limited. We cannot do everything we want. Our free will stops when the free will of the next one start to work. We can think like a ball of energy, right? Around us, we have two balls of energy. And that's my free will area, my range. When I'm coming closer, I may have an intersection that my free will may interfere with your free will. But if you continue for too long and I'm trying to go deeper, is when the intercession from above happens. That's it. Now you will not be able to. And how you know that, Guilherme? Mediumship meetings. How many times we have spirits threatening to kill, to harm, to do. You are disturbing me. That's not your business. Go away. You are making my life difficult. So there are many ways to interfere in some situations like that. The best protection ever is studying. Protect yourselves doing charity, helping others. Because eventually we will face people that do not like us. Eventually we'll face energies that may be unpleasant. So the best way to deal with that is be good. Because when you're good, you have people that will also look after you. Hi, Sandra.
Before we finish, I'd like just I wrote on the chat to remind or invite everyone that speaking about the Astral City book, we are having a beautiful study every Monday, UK time, 8 o'clock.
Very good, Sandra. Very well done. Well, that's it for today. I hope we have a wonderful weekend. And I'm disappointed because not many questions today. Thank you, Christine. You helped me out many times today. And thank you, Liz. Thank you, everyone, by the way. So let's do a quick prayer, just finalize what we're doing here and to carry on with our lives. Angels, spiritual beings, my spiritual friends, Master, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be here, trying to understand within our limitations all that is there. We know so little, and yet we will pursue this avenue to know a little bit more day by day. Be with us, give us the power, the light, the faith to have a magnificent Saturday, Sunday, and week. So be it.
Amen.
Goodbye, everyone. See you next time.
Everyone.
Thank you.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. God bless.